Welcome back. You're back with the Barefoot Therapist. I'm so excited that you're here. This is our eighth episode in the Lessons from Girlfriend series. And today our focus is on mother wounds. And I know that can be a tricky subject for a lot of folks because people struggle with their relationships with their mothers and being able to recover from those things when they don't go at least as they think they should. The title of today's episode is how family trauma shows up in relationships. And we're specifically going to talk about that, the mother wound, and how that shows up in relationships, especially with women. So, again, if you're just jumping in this series, please make sure you check out all of the other episodes in this series, Lessons from Girlfriends. We've talked about relationships, we've talked about patterns in friendships, how they show up, roles and responsibilities. We've talked about dating, and I'm really, really excited to talk about parenting. If you aren't already following me, subscribe, and share this. I am building my YouTube page, so this is a new endeavor for me to do more consistent content, but I've made a promise that I will do so. Also, I will have a live virtual workshop in June. You can check the link in my bio on my website. It is going to be fantastic. We're going to be talking about overworking and overproducing to avoid burnout. How are we avoiding burnout? How can we balance more and work less? We'll be talking about that in June. And then I will be having a retreat in 2027. So sign up to get on the wait list for that. We'll be releasing the space that we're going to go to soon in 2026. So let's jump right into it. Mother wounds. Your family, your growing up, your relationships with your parents, your caregivers, your siblings impact how you relate to other people in general, but we're specifically going to talk about friends. Your family informs your definition of love, your expression of love, your relating to others. Like, your family informs that by modeling and explaining to you. You get a sense clearly of what's safe and what's not. You get a sense of what you like and want, and what they like and want, and what they're also willing to give and not give. You also get a sense of what they have the capacity for and what they don't. And of course, when you're younger, it can feel like rejection. It can feel like they don't want me. It can feel like they don't, all that. But as you get older, you are able to transform some of those thoughts and experiences and have a different perspective just based on what you know now as an adult. So, and when we think in that context of our family informs our way of relating and developing relationships, initiating relationships, managing conflict and confrontation and disconnection, that also shows up in our friendships. What we need, and a lot of times we are expressing or exploring outside connections, friendships, intimate relationships to get those needs met and filled that are not being filled or have not been filled at home. That is a really slippery slope, simply because people can meet our needs, but we need to make sure we are responsible for those needs. They will be able to give you some things, but they can't fix what was already broken. They can pour into you. They can give you healthy love and respect. They can relate with you. They can spend quality time with you. They can give you a lot of those things. But that does not mean it's going to fix what was already broken from what you didn't get from your parents. The mother wound specifically, because mom is tied to nurturing, is tied to grace, is tied to educating, is tied to affection, is tied to the definition and embodiment of love, for everything from sacrificing their body to bring you into the world to the way that they connect with you when you're here. So the mother wound can be a really challenging place because oftentimes, especially with women, it impacts their ability to relate to and stay in connection with women, manage conflict and confrontation with women, being able to articulate themselves, advocate themselves with women. And oftentimes I see women that have mother wounds do not do well in relationships with other women. They make excuses. Oh, they're jealous. Oh, most women are messy. Oh, but That's not true. It's not an all or nothing scenario. I can promise you there are women who would love to be in healthy relationship with you and that can have healthy relationships with you. Most of my relationships, like friendships, are with women, different groups of women, women I've known for many, many, many years. And my oldest friend, that my best friend that I've had since the 6th grade. So it is possible to have healthy relationships with women. Sometimes the company you keep is that the one that you've attracted. So what about what you're looking for or attracting is problematic? And some of that again goes back to what needs you're trying to get met. Now, you may find the woman who is absolutely a drama queen, absolutely all the things. But the thing that you want that is unsaid is that you want a ride or die. You want somebody to stand beside you because you fear abandonment. Now, they're going to stand beside you and they're also going to create inevitable chaos. So you also have to choose your battles. You cannot on one hand say, I want this, and then that comes with the person. If you, I mean, you just have to know part of the issue with your relationships and your connections are you. You are choosing these people to have access to you and engage with you in your life. This is not, I want to say that it's not the expectation that everybody is perfect, but we do know, have to know we all come with some things and we are choosing what we invite in. We are definitely choosing that. So when we get to the family drama part of it, childhood shapes how we see relationships. Were you bullied as a child? Were you protected, not protected? Were you abused? How did your parents relate to you? Did they show you affection? When you got in conflict and confrontation, how was that managed? Because that carries over to how you navigate relationships, good, bad, and indifferent. So the challenge here oftentimes is, how do I grow and evolve from the child that I was with parents that did the best that they could to a person that can have healthy relationships regardless of what my past has brought me and I've experienced, because now I am solely responsible for what I do, my behavior, my connections. I'm solely responsible for that. I can't keep blaming mom and dad for the things that I'm actively choosing now. That's not the way it works. So we're going to get into some of the character things. We're going to first talk about Joan and her struggle with perfection. If you remember, there's an episode that, and again, I can't show any of that because Girlfriends is a TV show, so we'll talk through it. Joan struggled with perfection, and at first you really didn't get it until they introduced her mother on the show. When her mother came with criticism, not very much affection, not very much um, honoring her for her accomplishments, acknowledging her accomplishments, praising her. She loved her through criticism. She loved her through a hard fist of, you can do this, you're doing this. Again, when she wanted to no longer be a lawyer and she wanted to change into owning a business and figuring out what that was, her mom came down with this criticism of, you spend all this money and time. Why are you taking essentially a risk that she didn't understand? But she, at no time in that, hugged her and loved on her and said, hey, I don't know what this is. I may not understand what this is, but I want you to know I'm here to support you. I am concerned that you are putting your livelihood at risk. However, I'm not gonna let that stop me from being proud of you, and I want you to know I'm proud of you for taking this risk. She didn't have that. And now, do I think what she said was out of love? Yes. Do I think that what she said was out of her fear? Yes. Do I think that she was attempting to protect her from what she believed was a mistake? Yes. However, the way that that is communicated and managed was distant, was cold, was critical, was this idea that, again, Joan can't afford to make any mistakes. And that when she does, her mom is not a soft landing. She is the person saying, I told you so. See, you need to get up. So she struggled again, how that translated in her friendships. Look at how Joan showed up in her friendship. She had to act like she had everything together, even when she was falling apart. She didn't really want to stand up for herself. She was afraid of abandonment. She was afraid of what people might say if she didn't have it together, if she confronted them, if she didn't do what they asked. And when she finally did, she felt empowered. Was it a struggle? Yes, but that still, again, carried over. And you saw that in the interaction with her mother. I'm going to also mention William. If you guys William is such an integral part of this show. When William went home, we never met his mother, but we saw his father and how critical his father was. And you could see him quite literally, internally and physically shrink in his father's presence. With his father had a similar approach. Criticism, criticism, hard. There's not a lot of soft, there's no soft landing. There's no let's talk about your feelings. Your feelings are not null and void. We're going to talk about what appear to be facts. We're going to talk about what you need to be doing. I know best for you. I am protecting you. I am looking out for you. And you could see William shrink and struggle with finding his voice in those relationships. But I will say, alternatively, with his mother, he had this open, loving relationship, a little bit codependent, but open and loving relationship. And you could see how he then related to women very differently versus how he somewhat cowered when it came to men and really struggled in his engagement with men because his relationship with his father informed that this is not a place for you to be open and funny and relatable, and love does not show up as ooey gooey and we talk about feelings. So he struggled even when he was building a relationship with Darnell. He was already awkward and quirky, and trying to figure out how to relate to other men without cowering was something he progressively got better at, over the life of the show. Then we talk about Tony. Tony is very interesting because, as we know, her mother, played by Jennifer Lewis, A1, A1, her mother was an alcoholic in this show. And Tony's materialism gave her power to leave, to move around, to not have to be bothered with. That was her connection. She felt powerless as a child, and when you have a parent who is struggling with addiction, it is a very, you are powerless. It's nothing you can do. It's not about how much they love you or you love them. It is bigger than that. So you can see, as soon as she got the power to leave, she did. And the materialism for her, money for her, represented freedom. I can move around like I want to. But she then became emotionally disconnected and unavailable. And to be fair, that's also how she survived her household. You could see with her father, he was loving and comforting and all of that. However, her mother intervened on every level, in her relationships, in her personal life, in her business life. She intervened in every level. And Tony's effort to avoid her impacted her relationship with women, her needing to be in the seat of power, not allowing herself to be too vulnerable. Except with Joan, she found her ability to be vulnerable with Joan, but then struggled with boundaries because addicts struggle with boundaries. So she struggled with boundaries with Joan, the one person she would allow herself to fall apart with. Again, see the parallels. Then we get to Maya. Maya is interesting because Maya and her mother seemingly had a pretty good relationship. However, Maya, when she was going to divorce Darnell, didn't want to disappoint her. Maya struggled internally, it appeared at least, with feeling good enough, valuable enough, smart enough. She was in this group of friends that appeared to be super successful, and she felt like she was the one behind, that she wasn't. And she had all this vibrato that wasn't real. And then when it came to her mom, she wanted her mom to just think everything was perfect, it was okay, fearing what she would say. Like, and the thing is, Maya's mom appeared to be very loving in the way of like graceful and comforting. However, Maya's internal struggle wouldn't let her show up for her in the way she needed her to. Maya wanted her mother to not worry about her. But again, part of that is what mothers do. They're concerned. They love you. They want to protect you. But that requires a level of vulnerability. And then we're going to talk about how this connects to Blackness. Culturally, Black folks have gone through so much generation after generation after generation. And I am absolutely at 1000% going to tie this to slavery, going to tie this to Jim Crow, going to tie this to the dismantling of Black families. So Black families have struggled for generations to mend itself, to have healthy encounters that don't require us to constantly be on edge and in survival, that we can love on our kids and not make them so fearful of the world that they don't get to relax. that we are trying to break cycles even now as Black families, and we are competing with generations of racism and hurt and harm and powerlessness to some degree. And then being able to harness our power in a way that's healthy and relatable, and then, channeling that into our relationships, which is absolutely a skill set. So I will say, my challenge for you would be to identify one pattern that you're repeating and that you see being repeated in your friendships, and ask yourself, how can I be a friend, a better friend, first to me and then to them? And what things have I taken from home that I'm carrying in these relationships that they didn't do to me, they didn't ask for, and that they are actually trying to show up in the ways that I want. But I keep looking for the people who keep disappointing me to show up. So I'm not even paying attention to the fact that I have all this love in places that was unsuspected. I'm still looking a different direction. And again, I hope this helps. I hope this was helpful to you. I'm also gonna, I forgot, I just was on the roll today, to play I have a poll I want y'all to go ahead and be able to engage in. Oh, the poll was, do you have a healthy relationship with your mother? But apparently I can only do that when I stream. We are going to jump into my new app called Sifted. Check it out. Let me know what you think.
Meet Sifted, the AI-powered life operating system designed to bring clarity, focus, and control to everything you do. Tasks, goals, calendar. Sifted brings it all together into one intelligent command center. Plan smarter with powerful task and goal management. Got thoughts, ideas, or mental clutter? Just drop everything into Mind Laundry and let AI instantly organize it into clear, actionable items. Manage every venture from one intelligent business hub with Sifted. Create, organize, and scale your operations with clarity and efficiency. Meet Vera, your built-in AI assistant. From planning and brainstorming to scheduling and decisions, Vera helps you move faster and think clearer. Sifted works across all your devices. Start your plan with flexible and affordable options. Visit sifted.one and start your free 14-day trial today.
All right, I hope you guys liked that. If you get feeling, good about it, please go ahead and try out my Sifted app. You don't have to download anything. I am going to, put the QR code up here in just a moment. Go ahead and scan that QR code so you can check out the ad. Again, give me your feedback. And if you are a military member or family member or veteran, you can get that app, the premium version, for free, as we have a grant through the Department of Veteran Services. So please check it out and sign up on my website. So I'm going to give you my website QR code, and it's the Mahogany Project, projek.com. Make sure you sign up there, and then you can get free access to the app. So we are going to wrap up with, our favorite, one of my favorite segments anyway, is Reddit. So let's get to it. And I cut off the title. Y'all give me just 1 second. Okay. My parents confessed last Christmas that my sister was the product of my mother's affair. Am I the asshole for cutting my parents out of my life? Oh boy. This is a tricky one, and I can't wait to read it. All right, let's get into it. So I'll cut right to the chase. I, 19-year-old male, was always treated as the golden child of my family. Lavish birthdays, lavish gifts, lavish everything. I liked the attention initially when I was a child, but as I grew older, I grew more and more sympathetic to how my parents treated my sister, 18-year-old female. I never understood it. I initially thought it was because I was a boy and she was a girl, and that maybe they were sexist. It wasn't that they treated her badly. It's just that she was a complete afterthought. As I grew older, it hurt me a lot. I started working a part-time job at 14 and started saving up money to get her birthday gifts and other gifts. It wasn't much, but I had thought an effort, something which my parents lacked. It was pretty obvious that my parents weren't the biggest cause of my sister's self-esteem issues. Excuse me. It was pretty obvious that my parents were the biggest cause of my sister's self-esteem issues. They always talked about how smart I was. Make this a little bigger. How I was destined for bigger things, and they bragged about it to their friends and extended family, but they hardly ever praised my sister. I was pretty fed up with it all, and after graduating high school, I rejected an offer to go to an Ivy League because I didn't want my parents to help pay for my college education. I did get acceptance into a decent university, which offered me a full ride scholarship, and I accepted that. A year later, my sister got accepted into the same university with almost a full ride. Excuse me, almost a full scholarship. 4 months ago, we were at our parents' house for the Christmas holidays, and my parents confessed that my sister was the product of an affair that my mother had. They straight up said they would never love her, that she was a mistake, and that they wanted nothing to do with her anymore, that she was now that she was 18. It was shocking. My sister was obviously devastated. My sister and I immediately left the next day. Before leaving, I told my parents that they were dead to me and I wanted nothing to do with them anymore. I seriously hated them. I'm not sure why my mom was even crying. Anyways, it's been 3 months. My sister and I have both taken a break in college for a semester. My sister is still struggling extremely hard, but we've moved in together and it's gotten better for the last couple of weeks. And she's also started therapy last week. Awesome. I will never contact my parents ever again in spite of all they did for me. I am dead set on that, but I wonder, am I the asshole? Boy. And again, I didn't read this other than the title before I put it here. So I like to be surprised and have a initial response. This is devastating. It is devastating to as a I can I'm empathizing and putting myself in her shoes, knowing and feeling, I would imagine that you were mistreated or at least treated very differently than your brother, not feeling like you're liked or loved, only to come to find out that you were a result of your mother's choice and a poor choice to have an affair, and that she still decided to have you, but then and then mistreated you the entire time. Same with, your father, that he decided to stay, he decided to still be with her, and then they both mistreated you. How do you trust people after that? How do you trust that people are going to be honest with you because they've now lied to her entire life? And then her brother sees the stark difference between how they treat him and how they treat her. And he doesn't like it. But that's all what love is like not standing aside while someone you love is being mistreated and being brave enough to stand up for that. So I salute his bravery 100%. I don't know that cutting them off is going to change anything. Again, I will also honor that I'm very adverse to cutting people off. I think that requires extreme. This is an extreme scenario. And I think that what he also witnessed was the abuse. Like it was, I would imagine it was emotional abuse. It was the withdrawal. It was the abandonment. It was the I'm not going to give you what we're clearly giving everybody else. It was the we don't like you, and clearly telling her that I can imagine was heartbreaking. So in support of his sibling, I 100% understand why he did that. However, I don't. I hope that he doesn't think that that's going to change anything from his parents. His parents have work to do. They have work to do, and he cannot take the place of what she didn't get. He can only support her moving forward. And that I'm so glad that they said towards the end that she's in therapy, because that experience will certainly inform her relationships. Trust, the ability to feel loved and wanted, be having to recalibrate and reimagine what healthy love feels like, affection feels like, being wanted feels like, having to reimagine what that will even be, considering this is your experience for the last 18 years. So, salute to him for standing behind her and being her person. Um, Especially in light of her parents' poor choices. Parents is in both of them. And does this happen? Is this an isolated incident? No. Do people do stuff like this all the time? Yes. And we'll, when we hear about people being raised by someone they think is their mom, and they find out that they're not, and all these family secrets. This is not an obtuse experience. This is unfortunately normal and unfortunate for all parties but the parents involved, because they actively made choices that completely harm their children in the long run. So, again, I would say definitely to get therapy, but also consider what do I do with this? Where do I put this? Because this has been my life for the last 18 years. So it's not certainly going to be an overnight recovery or a reconciliation. But I hope that helps. Please like and subscribe if you already haven't. It was my pleasure. I'll see you next episode. Bye.